Good morning, guys. This is Austin with Proper Exterior Cleaning. Today we're going to be going over how to stage your truck, be a little bit more efficient on your pool decks, house washes, all that kind of good stuff. So this is a house that we've done reoccurring, so I already know where the water is. If you look over there, the water is going to be on that back corner of the house. So we've got the truck positioned to where we can just pull garden hose straight off, get hooked up. So that's what we're gonna do. The first thing you always wanna do when you get pulled up to these houses is get your water hooked up before you do another thing. So if you gotta go and talk to the customer, or if you're going to start staging your other hoses, you've at least got your water hooked up. It's filling up in that time, so you're not wasting time afterwards by going to fill up on water, at the end. Because this is typically what you're waiting on when you're getting started. So I left my cam lock up at the truck, so we're just gonna go ahead and hook this up here. What I do so I don't lose it is I just hang this on the spigot like that, and then we'll go back up here to the truck. Once I got water going to the tank, we would typically go and talk to the customer, but they're at work, so we just go and do what we need to do. Gonna lock the reel. That makes sure that that thing's not gonna start back rolling off or whatever when we're working. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna wait for it to fill up just a little bit so I can get the AR primed up. We're not gonna be surface cleaning this one. We're just gonna be spraying it and rinsing it because it's really not bad. This is just a maintenance clean. I don't know if you can hear, but this water's kind of slow with just the one. So what we're gonna do is pull off another section. We're gonna hook it up to the front as well. So we'll have two water inlets that'll help us just go a little bit quicker. Make sure that's tight. And then I put it on this top reel, kind of out of the way, so this isn't binding down, causing it to leak like that. It's got a good level there, and it's gonna stop. So we'll take this, and we'll go up here to this front one. Do the same process. So now you've got twice the water going into the tank. One thing to watch out for on a lot of these houses is these hoses that sit on here for a while. Sometimes they'll get seized up. So if these things are really tight, you might want to bring yourself a set of vice grips. And if that doesn't work, don't mess with it. Don't even try and hook up to it because you're gonna end up breaking the pipe. It's gonna be a real bad day. I'm gonna come over here, turn on our remote box that we've got. So we'll be able to just control it from a remote. We're gonna get our water on. Go ahead and get this thing started. We're gonna unlock the reel. I'm gonna show you guys how to carry this hose. So a lot of guys will just pull like this and you're using a lot of upper body strength. What you can do is face away from the hose, tuck it up under your right arm, grab it from behind you and bring it over your left shoulder. So now what it's doing is whenever you walk, you're gonna be pulling the hose with your body until it catches on the reel like that. But you're gonna be pulling it with your body and it's not gonna be a whole lot of upper body strength. It's gonna be easier to pull around and you're not liable to knock yourself in the head if you're just pulling it with your hands and it gets caught on something. You've got a little bit extra cushion there for it to maneuver itself. So that should be good. I'm gonna go ahead, it's an early morning, grass is wet. We're gonna go ahead and rinse this grass down one time. Obviously, if there's any electrical along here that needs to be taken care of, we would tape that off. But there's nothing on this specific job. We're gonna go ahead and flick our chem on with our remote, and you'll hear it's got positive feedback on it. We custom make these, so we know that anytime that beeps, it's making a good connection. And we're not second guessing if that bleach is gonna turn on here. Remember, we got about 45 seconds to get things rinsed. So I'm gonna just do kind of a quick mist down on the deck here. You don't have to do this, but just so I'm not spraying a bunch of water in one spot. All right, so now that we got our bleach coming through, we're just gonna really saturate this deck. This is not a very large pool deck, so it's not going to take us a whole lot of time here. We got about a 1.5% mix right now, so this should eat this stuff up really good. It's not going to kill the grass. It's going to do what it needs to. Might take a smidge longer than I want, but again, we don't have to worry about destroying the grass. That's the important part here. Main thing you're trying to do is get full coverage and just evenly coat it. In some of these bad areas, you can spray a little bit more to make sure that it gets covered really good. You want to try to reduce spraying into the grass as much as possible. I'm going to go ahead and work back around this way, just so I don't get myself all the way tangled in that pool hose. Make sure you get these edges. I can see it's already starting to come clean pretty easily, so our mixture should be pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and switch us off of bleach back to water. You heard that beep? It took a couple times there. Now, you might be asking, why am I spraying this and not surface cleaning it? One, I did this just to make the video. It's a lot quieter. Secondly, a lot of these decks that we have over here are painted, and they're really not painted the greatest, so it's a lot easier to just spray it and not have to worry about it chipping. And then you don't have to deal with all the headaches. So I'm just spraying the coping along here. It's not going to mess up the balance of the pool. There's really not that much getting in. So now the pool's basically been fully coated everywhere on the deck. Gonna spray a couple of these other bad areas with the leftover chem we have in the line. And then once we start seeing some fresh water come through, we'll go back and mist the grass down one more time. This grass isn't in the best of condition, but we still want to make sure we get in the habit of doing these steps. So when you have good landscape and you have really crazy plants, you know, you're not skipping these steps. You don't have to walk the full thing. You kind of shoot it from a far area. Again, I'm gonna walk back over here so I don't get tangled on that vacuum. And just to put in perspective how long we've been on the job right now, we've been here 16 minutes, 51 seconds. So that was from pulling up, getting some of the camera stuff out, hooked up, water hooked up. So the deck is sprayed, all we gotta do is rinse it. So while I'm waiting for this to kind of activate and do what it needs to, I'm just gonna give them a quick mist down on the back. We're not trying to remove any algae, just any of the dust, you know, while we're here, might as well. Doing the little extra things that makes a difference. Plus, you're rinsing down your doors. You don't have to worry about them getting stained. See, there's some stuff coming out. Again, we're just doing a quick rinse down. So now I'm going to start back over here and work my way towards the house, because this area wasn't bad and it's already cleaned, ready to go. So we're going to kind of crank the trigger in a little bit more defined and straight here, and just start rinsing some of this stuff down. Main focus here, get all the soap or the bleach or whatever out. I don't have any surfactant on this. This is just straight chem. So anytime you're on flat work, unless it's on a really steep angle, you don't really need soap. It's just going to make it a lot harder to rinse, especially on stuff like this. It's really porous. So again, main focus is getting the bleach rinsed off so it's not slippery. And also, we want to get as much of that black out as possible. A lot of this stuff you're seeing in here is actually the concrete underneath. That's not dirty, so it is what it is. Can't control the condition. We can just control how clean it is. Now, could you surface clean this? Sure. I would definitely upsize my kits, or get like a pressure regulator kit or something like that, to where you can adjust your pressure on the fly. And I'd probably hit this at like 1200 PSI. I mean, there's already some big chunks that are missing from it, so I wouldn't really want to be responsible for all that. Once we get into these heavy areas, I got to go a little bit slower to make sure that we get everything rinsed evenly here. And what I'm looking for is to get to that color of where that concrete is underneath. So once I see that black is gone, it's more grayish, I know that area is clean. Kind of work it in a section. all the way to the joint line and then kind of come back, even all this stuff out here. And again, this is variables, you know. If this were a nice, great conditioned deck, I would probably just bring the surface cleaner back here and be done with it. But we're all about not causing damage and getting it as clean as possible without causing damage. So this is kind of what we're dealing with here. Spray off the floor mat. There are some areas you're gonna have to go a little bit slower, so you just gotta be patient with it. If you absolutely needed to, you could coat this again after it sits for a little bit, but I think at that point you're just wasting chemical. This is probably about 90% as good as it's gonna get. Which again, for something that we do about every year, you don't need to go over the top. So this is probably gonna be the worst area in here. Those rubber mats will leave a little outline, so it is what it is. You could probably get another 10 or 15% out of it if you surface cleaned it, but again, it's not worth risking the damage. Remember guys, anyone can come out here and throw a surface cleaner on something, make it look a lot better than probably that, but then you're left with chunks of the deck missing and it's gonna look like crap, so that's not what we're about. All right, so last thing we're gonna do in this area, we're gonna rinse down this window again, or the door. I'm gonna slide this portion over so I can spray the tracks out very carefully as I pull this door back. It's gonna help get all the crap out of the tracks. And then we're just gonna rinse all this into the grass over here. We're running about 220 PSI on the gun right now. At full throttle, so it's probably 9 gallons a minute, I would say, somewhere around there. And our water's keeping up great. No issues. Rinse our coping. Now I am moving a little bit slower on this job just because we're shooting a video on it, but you want to make sure you thoroughly rinse all this stuff down as much as possible, just so if your customer decides to walk out here barefoot or their dogs happen to get out the door, you don't have chemical on the deck. Rinse this mat off as best as possible. Pop it back down, same spot you found it. And then we're done. So now what we're gonna do, shut our machine off. Before we start pulling hose out, we want to make sure that we're not caught on anything. So you can see that I've got this lovely vacuum thing caught up. So I'm just going to disconnect my gun, come over here, pull it from this side. And we're good to go. So now while I'm back here, I'm going to get my gun ready so I can walk back up to the front. We're gonna shut this water off. If your tank's full, you gotta make sure not to spray yourself because this will have pressure in it. But we're definitely not full. So we're gonna thread this cam lock back in here. You'll see what this will do here in a second. Make sure to put their garden hose back on. Remember guys, you gotta put things back the way you found it. Kind of hand tight, doesn't need to be crazy tight there. Now we're going to grab our gun and we're going to start trekking back up to the truck. Just paying attention as you're walking up. Make sure you're not breaking anything, pulling any sprinklers, any landscape lights, garden gnomes, little kids, something, So now it's all about hose management. So what we're going to do now is work on the blue hose. Take our rag, come over here. Start reeling this hose up. With these electric reels, if you got a hose stretch that's pretty far out there, what you can do is as you're bringing it in, you can kind of pull the hose towards the reel. It's going to help put less wear and tear on your reels. Especially when you get down to like that gray hose, which is 1/2-inch 2-wire. Always want to make sure you're looking back over your shoulder to see a couple things. Again, what I just talked about, make sure it's not grabbing landscape lights, any of the critters that's there. And then you also want to make sure, like look at that, it's catching that hose. So that's all right because we're just about finished with the blue hose, but if that were all the way in the back, that's gonna be putting you for an arm workout if you're doing manual reels, or it's gonna be tearing up your stuff. So we got that done. Squeeze the pressure out just so that hose can compress on there a little easier. Make sure one thing is done before we move on to the next. We close our valves just as a precautionary measure. So now what we're gonna do, take our cam lock off of here, garden hose off, put that back where it goes. We would put our yellow threaded piece back on there too whenever we came back up to the truck. And then now we're gonna get this garden hose disconnected, hook this one up too, and then reel up the garden hose, close the fence, and we're done. And we'll show you on the timer how long we've been here, what the ticket is, all that good stuff. Again, put things back the way you found it. Those little things that make the difference with the customer. Now, the reason for that cam lock up there is with any garden hose, unless you got like non-collapse that you're using, it's gonna cinch down on itself or kink or whatever you wanna call it. And this allows the garden hose to keep pressure in the line. So whenever you're reeling it up, it's not gonna flatten on itself. The other thing too is if you look right here, we've got ourselves a nice ball valve. So we're gonna close that, give ourselves a little bit of slack here. And now when we reel this up, it's gonna be good to go. With this garden hose, you wanna watch wherever your connections are because those typically have hose clamps. If it's an older hose on it, and those will mess you up. You just gotta be aware of where your hose is at, how far you've reeled it up. See like that right there? You wanna make sure, because that'll cut you. That's why I always recommend using a towel to reel this up and taking advantage of gloves. You never know what you're gonna be running into at these houses, whether they don't pick up after their dogs or you just get into some nasty parts of town. So to make sure to keep yourself healthy. Let the pressure back out into the tank, lock the reel, gloves off in the trash can. She's good to go. All right, so this one was pool deck and dryer vent. We're coming back later to do the dryer vent. Ticket price was $188 for that since we're already in the area, and the timer is 34 minutes and like 40 seconds before we get in the truck. That's how to clean your pool deck, soft wash it, whatever you want to call it, quickest way possible, still producing quality, not killing a bunch of stuff. So hope that helps. Drop a comment down below if you got any questions.